The common room of UA dorms was especially loud tonight. Everyone was playing board games and hide and seek. A select few just stayed on the couch watching TV. And Listener was one of those. Hey guys, I have an idea. Everyone turned to see Mina Ishido smirking with her hands on her hips. Mina giggled and said, "We should play Truth or Dare, then everyone can sleep out here tonight. A class sleepover. If your last name starts with M and you have purple hair, you can't come though. Sorry." Mineta was visibly upset as he yelled, "That's so unfair, the whole class gets to sleep out here but not me. What is this?" All the girls snickered, but Listener just sighed and lazily said, "Mina, he is right. You did say class sleepover. Don't worry, I'll keep him in check. I don't sleep that much anyway." Ida raised his hand and said, "Mineta, if you participate in the sleepover event tonight, you will be the furthest away from the girls. Keep yourself under control. And Listener, the body requires 8 hours of sleep every night. As class rep, I have to take this seriously if you aren't sleeping well." Bakugou just scoffed and rolled his eyes. "This is lame. I'm not sleeping out here with all you extras." Then he rose from his seat and stomped off in the direction of his room. Kirishima and Kaminari ran after him. Anyway, let's get this game started. Mina was jumping with joy. The entire class that was present sat in a circle. Mina stood up and counted her fingers as she explained the rules. "Here are the rules. No daring anyone to do self-harm or harm to others. No daring people to be your personal harriman. That includes kissing. Now, let's begin." After a while of the game, everyone was giggling. It was hilarious to see some of the truths people told. After Sue went, she thought for a second. I choose Listener. "You haven't gone yet. Truth or dare, Ribbit?" All eyes were on Listener. She nervously replied, almost as if there was a question. "Dare?" Mina giggled and nudged Sue. Then she said, "I dare you to go get Kaminari and Kirishima." Listener looked confused, but she agreed and went to Bakugou's room, which was open, and there was loud yelling coming from it. She poked her head in and said, "Yo, Kiri, Kaminari, I was dared to come get you guys." To further inspection, Kaminari and Kirishima were trying to drag Bakugou out, but were failing miserably. "Come on, you can't drag Bakugou out of his room," she said, laughing, eventually rolling around the floor. Kirishima grunted and was struggling to speak. "Hey man, it's not as easy as it looks." Through Listener's laughter, she picked all three up and took them outside of Bakugou's room. Listener stood up, wiping her tears of laughter, and put them down. Bakugou grabbed the collar of Listener's shirt and held her up in the air. "What the hell was that for, shitface?" Listener looked at Kaminari and Kirishima, but they just gave each other a look and snuck away. She looked back at Bakugou and said, "I just needed to get the others two back downstairs. That's all. You can go and get your BUS or whatever you call it." She rolled her eyes and mumbled, "You have the ego of a stuck-up-ended brat anyway." Bakugou dropped Listener and glared at her. "The hell did you just say?" Listener felt sweat from her forehead. She cleared her throat and said, "I said you had the proper princess attitude to go along with a beauty rest, Bakugou." There was a pause, a sudden glaring contest. Bakugou scoffed and said, "I don't have this time for your idiocy, dumbass." He walked into his room, intentionally shoving Listener with his shoulder. She sighed and walked back to the common room with her face turned to a flush pink and flustered mess. Listener found Bakugou fiercely personally quite attractive, but she couldn't stand that he would constantly insult everyone, not to mention he had a rocking body. Listener composed herself and went back into the common room to see all the girls wearing sunglasses and sipping tea, and the guys were chatting amongst themselves in smaller groups. Listener made her way back over to the smirking group, and the girl asked, "What happened now?" Mina took her glasses off and asked, "Why do you stay up there so long with Bakugou, huh? Anything juicy happen?" Listener laughed and responded sarcastically, "What do you think, Bakugou and I kissed or some shit? Hell no, you wouldn't caught dead with me." Hagigiri leaned forward and asked, "But would you be caught dead with him?" Listener's face went pink and she looked to the side and nodded. The girls knew of the Listener's crush on Bakugou, but they didn't like the idea of him being mean to her. Nonetheless, they supported her. "Hey, why'd you take so long with Bakugou, eh?" Listener turned to see Kirishima and Kaminari standing right behind her, with their arms crossed and eyebrows raised. With a sigh, Listener replied, I told him that he had a princess complex and it's annoying. I hate seeing how crappy he treats everyone. Kirishima went deadpan and asked, wait, so nothing happened? Listener looked at him questionably and asked, was something supposed to? Kirishima whispered something to Kaminari and they both said in unison, no, just glad he didn't try to beat you up. Later into the night, everyone goes to bed that they set up on the floor. Guys were on one side and the girls were on the other. Of course, Mineta tried to get as close to the girls as possible and intentionally attempting to trip and fall on their sleeping bags. Mineta, your sleeping bag will be over here, furthest away from the girls' side, Ida said, making choppy motions in the air. Mineta was practically sobbing when he was so upset he couldn't even get close to them. Eventually everyone lied down and fell asleep, except Listener. She had to make sure Mineta didn't try anything. Mineta didn't try to make a move, but Listener sat up and Mineta could see her glowing irises. And with that, he went back to his sleeping bag. Sometime throughout the night, Listener got thirsty, so she went to the kitchen and drank a glass of water. But before she could leave, she saw Bakugou walk into the kitchen and grab a cup. He didn't notice her until he started walking up to the faucet, and then he glared at her and rhetorically asked, the hell do you want? Listener quietly replied, nothing, I just can't sleep. Never can. Bakugou nodded and filled up his cup. He took a sip and asked, have you tried drinking something warm before bed? Like tea? Listener nodded and said, that used to work, but not anymore. She sighed and leaned back on the counter. Then the pinched her bridge of her nose. Bakugou stood in front of her and asked, are you afraid of something, or are you just stressed? Listener looked up at Bakugou and said, I don't know, possibly both. Why do you even care? Bakugou looked down at the floor and sighed angrily. Because you're constantly complaining about not sleeping, and it's annoying. Listener nodded and stayed quiet. She had thought about anything that could be keeping up her at night, something she denied being afraid of, but then it hit her. Listener said, it could be because I'm afraid of being alone, or with all the recent envelopment attacks on UA, I could just be paranoid and stressed. Bakugou looked back at her, a little surprised. You're afraid of being alone? He asked in a sarcastic tone. Listener bashfully nodded and said, yeah, especially at night time. I've always had someone with me, like my sibling, but I don't have them with me anymore, so... Listener crossed her arms and looked back to the common area. Everyone was sleeping soundly, but then she saw a short figure slowly creeping towards the girls. She waved her hands and then he was sent flying back to his bed and zipped up tight in his sleeping bag. Suddenly, Listener felt herself being pulled into a soft embrace. She turned to look at Bakugou, but he rested his chin on her shoulder and said, it's okay to be afraid, so long as you know that others are here to protect you. Listener wrapped her arms around Bakugou's back and rested her forehead on his shoulder, as she said, Bakugou, is that how you felt since she was cut off? Since I was kidnapped? Yeah. She gripped onto him tighter and said, I'm sorry, I'm keeping you up. He scoffed and said, shut up. He pulled away from the hug and said, you should try cuddling with someone at night, since you're too scared to be alone. Seems like you'll get a lot of them tonight, though. He said, sarcastically pointing to the separate sleeping bags of people. Listener nodded and said, yeah, thanks, Bakugou. She turned to leave, but he grabbed her arm and said, if you tell those goddamn extras anything about what happened tonight, I swear. Listener shook her head and said, I won't tell a soul. Sleep well, Bakugou. However, he didn't let go. She looked back up at Bakugou, but to her surprise, he grumbled, you're not going to go to sleep, idiot. His face displayed anger, then he dragged Listener off to his room. Once he got to his bed and in the covers, then said, get over here, dumbass. You need to sleep. I'm tired of your constant whining. Listener climbed in bed with Bakugou as he spooned her. She slowly slipped away into a nice deep sleep, and she never woke up throughout the night. Something about his presence is so relaxing, even if he may be a walking bomb.